Wow, hello everyone. Good evening and welcome to today's episode of Relationship Clinic with Ngozi. My name is Ngozi Ndi Alichi, and I'm so happy we're all
Hi,
here.
can you hear me? If you can't, I
Yes,
can't
I
hear
can.
you.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome. Okay. So we're all welcome to today's episode of Relationship Clinic with Ngozi. My name is Ngozi Ndi Alichi, like we already know. And my bit on this series is to ensure that our relationships, for which reason we are all created, particularly the family relationships and principally and other levels of relationships, are good. And then if there's a problem, just like we go to the clinics for Medicare, for attention, we listen through the knowledge and the information we share on Relationship Clinic, our relationships become better. So I welcome everyone that is joining us on today's episode of the show. Today we're going to be dealing with something that is really critical. Last week on the show, I had this same guest, Barrister Mrs. Rose Ojabo, on the program. She is a teen coach, she is an education consultant, and then she has a special focus on guiding the male child so that they can become the best that they can be. So we spoke on, we had the conversation last week on the role of the family in curbing the incidences of rape. And that episode was very instructive. I got people that spoke with me after the program on the platform, and then they commended and they said it was highly informative. And so today, again, Rose is back on the show, doing best what she knows to do. Hello, Rose. How are you doing? Network or no network, we are going to, this is going to be a beautiful episode. And so today we are discussing again the role of the family in recovery of, a rape victim. Those people, the people that are victims to rape incidences are people that emanate from the family. So whether it's a boy, a girl, a woman, or whoever, we all come from a family. We'll always say, God forbid. Yes, that's what we always say. But these people come from families. So our responsibility is to know how we give them succor, how we be that shoulder they are going to lean on so that they can be recovered and live their best possible lives. So that's what we're going to be discussing on today's episode of Relationship Clinic with Ngozi. Yeah, so as people join us, remember that the rule of the engagement is that you also make your comment, make your contributions, and then we all learn together. I hope we're on the same page. Welcome everyone that is on the show at this time. Okay, Rose, by way of introduction, I understand, well, from my studies, it says that, data available shows that 1 out of 5 women, experience or report social violence by their intimate partners. And I remember that last week, you said it very clearly, that those perpetrators of rape are even people that are close, family members, relatives, workmates, but people that have a relationship with their victims, so they're not entirely strangers. And so here, the study says that 1 in 5 women report, sexual violence by their intimate partners. And then you said to us very clearly that rape is indeed a pandemic. Just like, the COVID-19 is declared a pandemic, that is how rape is a pandemic. And a pandemic is an outbreak that spreads across countries and continents. It affects more people, and then it also leaves in its trail death and havoc, different kinds of havoc. And that is exactly what rape is doing. So today, we're just going to say, we're saying, yes, that is the true situation. But how do we save the victims? How do we save them from what they did not negotiate for? Because for it to be a rape means that it was not negotiated for. It was not consensual sex. So it was forced. The victim was coerced into doing what he or she did not plan to do. So we're looking at the role of the family today. The family has been defined as the closest unit, So now, okay, let me leave you for that intro. So how do you think, straight up, the family, what can the family do?
like you said, the family is the closest unit. So for a victim, the fastest and safest place for he or she to recover is within the family.
Okay.
Because that's the people she knows. That's where there's comfort. Those are the immediate circle members of the circle that can understand her and try to relate with what has happened with he or she. So the role of the family is to make it as conducive as possible for the victim to find a way of expressing he or herself so she can heal.
Absolutely. Understanding is very critical. That's what I've heard from you now. Understanding is very critical, and that is what the family offers.
Yes.
So the person has been traumatized outside the family. So the person needs to come back, or the family needs to receive that person who has been wounded. It's like someone that has a sore or has a wound, a bruise, and is bleeding. And then so he or she comes home to where there is love and understanding. That's what the family will do. Okay, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Okay, talking about recovery. And there are different levels of recovery, because the levels of infliction of pain or hurt on the victim are on different levels: the physical, the emotional, the psychological, and even the sociological. You know, like you said, backstage, we tend to even stigmatize people that we hear are rape victims. So let's hear from you. How can we say, because the physical injury is there, so tell us more about that.
Okay, let me quickly say this before we move any further. Injury is injury, whether you can see physically or not. So the victim, he or she, may have physical injury or may not even have. For instance, if the perpetrator just had his way, before I even go further, sorry, we may have to use some words that may not be comfortable with some people, but that's just the fastest way of passing the message across. So if the victim was penetrated, probably there was no injury in the process. You can't say the victim didn't suffer any form of injury. The fact that it was against their consent is enough to say they suffered. So you may have physical infliction from probably beating, biting in the course of the struggle. They have to deal with that. So it means the victim has to heal physically first. And then you talk about the mental trauma he or she will be going through at that point, because most times the blame starts from the family. Rather than helping the victim recover, they begin to ask questions. What were you doing there in the first place? Why would you follow so and so person? Look at the way you're dressed. You invited it to yourself, and so on and so forth. So in order for the family to help the victim recover, know that they're suffering at different levels: psychological, socially, because definitely they will stigmatize them, mentally, spiritually, because sometimes they want to blame themselves for committing one sin or the other against God, and so he's trying to punish them for their acts. The recovery is on all levels, and if the victim cannot find the process with which to start from, the healing will not be complete. So for me, I appeal to the family: give them the space to heal. The recovery starts from first a visit to the hospital. Once there is an incident, please take the victim to the hospital. Let them do a thorough examination. Perhaps in the course of it, they've even transmitted some diseases. They need to be treated. Probably the victim got pregnant. They need to attend to that. So please take the victim to the hospital, get medical help. Then you can start the processing of your spiritual, emotional. Then we need to also know that they can get help from the psychologists, psychiatrists, and all of that. All the processes we can highlight as when we go on.
Okay. So what you've said, first of all, take the victim to the hospital because there's an injury, physical, because it was a first act. It was not willing, so it was not like there was a preparedness for it. So there would be, even if there are not, we can't see any with our physical eyes, because it gives room for transmission of sexually transmitted diseases and all kinds of things. Pregnancies may even occur in some of them, and so many other things that go with it. So the first thing to do is to take the victim to the hospital. Okay. I also want to say, what of the an incident where the victim is not open? What will the family do to get that openness, would I say? I mean, somebody is raped out there and parents or family did not know, did not hear about it. And then, how does the family, I don't know, and some are afraid to talk, some feel embarrassed. So how does the family get into it to break open this person or, a conversation? Yeah.
It's not even easy to just walk up to your mother and say, Mommy, I've just been raped. It is not an easy conversation that the victim wants to have, because at the time the incident occurred, there's a way our mind works. He or she must have just programmed their mind on overdrive. They just take a back seat and have this out of body experience where they're wondering if it happens to them, if it's happening, and all of that. So they shut down completely. It's after the whole incident has happened that they begin to process the thoughts. I mean, you mean this thing really happened to me? The next question is, how do I get to tell my family members without them judging me? Because it's difficult to just say, I got raped, without somebody saying, what did you do? It could be a lie, especially when the person who did it is known to the family. Sometimes it's very difficult to believe that such and such could do a thing like that. So you have all of those militating against the person opening up. But then if your family has always been supportive, they should come back home to talk. Communication is key in every family. It's the safest place. They should be open to you. Now, what are the signs? If the person used to be jovial, outgoing, and suddenly they're not talking, there should be a problem somewhere. If they keep themselves, you call their name severally, they're lost, they're not even responding, you try to hold them, they move away from you, that shows there's a problem.
There's something wrong.
That there's something wrong for such a person to suddenly be running away from you or not wanting to talk. So you as the parents or siblings should know the right buttons to press, know the love language of that person, and ask patiently. The word there is patience. You have to wait for them to be able to speak to you when they are ready. You don't push, you don't put pressure, because the moment you put pressure on them, they will further go into their shell. So please, I'm appealing, be patient and begin to ask questions. If there are people she's close to that you can talk, he can talk to, you can also use them to try to get to the bottom of it. But the thing is, eventually they will get to talk if you're patient enough.
Okay, that's awesome. There's something you said that that I also have in my notes here, that we need to make the home a safe haven, so that our children or members of the family can feel free to talk about every and anything with us. Because if it's a conducive place, a loving place, I mean, if someone has such an experience, the best place, like you've said, is to come back home, and that is where the wounds will be mended. So it's important too for every one of us, and to all those that are listening and that will watch, afterwards, to make sure that the family environment, the family, is indeed a place, a safe haven, like I've said, for our children and for members of the family entirely to come back to. I don't want, when I say children, I quickly also add members of the family, because rape is not exclusive to just children alone. Yeah, everyone can be a victim, man and woman alike. Is that correct?
Yes, man, woman. It is prevalent to everybody, irrespective of race, societal standing, beliefs, culture, color. It is every day, everywhere, and happening every day.
Okay.
Old ladies have been, men, women have been raped. So it's just cuts across the strata.
Okay. You also said, you were trying to mention some of the things as members of the family we should be sensitive to, watching out for one another. It will be watching out for one another when I suddenly see that a member of the family who used to be very outgoing, very jovial, is suddenly recoiling to his or her shell. It gives a room to look a little more and then ask questions. So we need to be very sensitive to that as family members, because some of the ways, such things manifest: depressive tendencies, self-blame, and they feel nervous, like you've also mentioned, and tense and uneasy. Sometimes they're not comfortable again because it looks like everybody has seen me and everyone has known, whereas nobody has even known. Maybe you understand what I mean. That's talking about, and then suicidal tendencies.
Yes.
So the family must really needs to look out. We all need to look out for one another in this world where we are in now, where rape, we have all declared, is a pandemic. It is ravaging nations, is ravaging across continents. It is not like for a certain kind of people. Everyone, anyone can be a victim to it. Okay, you're still talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
The reason they don't speak out is because probably they've been threatened by the person. Or if you get to talk, we'll kill your family members, we'll kill your mother, we'll do all of that. So the fear of having to put their family members in harm's way.
Harm's way, yeah. Yes. Okay. But it is better to speak because of the side effects, negative, the trauma that goes with that. It is better to speak out. I'm sure, like you called it, is a threat. They might never pull it out. I've not heard of any, and and we hope it doesn't ever happen. Yeah.
They may come back again to do it over and over because they know the victims are not talking. So no matter how bad it is, the best place to still say it is your home where you have support.
Okay, the best way, the best place. So parents watching, everyone watching, create a conducive environment and make the children feel confident enough. Our children, sometimes they're all guilty, that even the worst things that happen, is better to bring it home so that we know what is. Okay, there's a question here. Some comments are coming in. Well, this one, I said, what are the signs to look out for to know that something has gone wrong? I think we've talked about that a bit, but you can reiterate that a bit more.
Okay, you talked about suicidal tendencies. So for some, they begin to cut themselves. They stop eating. They won't have a bath. They will not mingle with friends. They won't want to go anywhere. Some will just be lost. I said that earlier. They're sitting with you and they're completely lost. Some are you have what you call PTSD, post-traumatic stress. At the drop of anything, they begin to shiver. They're not themselves anymore. And if it happens in school or their workplaces, you discover they don't want to go there anymore. They give excuses for not wanting to go to school, to go to work, or any place that used to excite them. Once you begin to see these signs, just know something has happened, or there's pressure going on that is beginning to affect them. Lots of appetite, weight. These are all. Some have running stomach, and for no reason. So these are all.
Yeah. There's just something has disconnected somewhere. So everybody part is responding to that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, the next question says, is there any advice for the vulnerable to ward off rapists?
Well, I said earlier that when I was talking with you, I mentioned something.
Yeah.
It's an opportunistic event. Rapists take advantage of the time, the place, to do whatever they want to. It's not planned on the part of the victim to be raped. It's the perpetrator who has been planning and has been watching you on every step. When it happens, my first take on this is there a way we can teach adults, children, people generally on how to take care of themselves, self-defense tactics? So what I told my children, although they are karateka and all of that, aim for the groin if it is a man. Punch hard at it. At least for the few seconds that he will let go. You can have a way of screaming, shouting, or running up. You can bite, you can scratch. It is self-survival. Now let all your instincts kick in so you save yourself. Then you must be sensitive. There are times where I was walking and I felt someone was following me. I try to either walk faster or just branch off where I'm not supposed to until I feel that presence is no longer there. Vulnerables, please don't walk alone. If you can, walk in a group. Although sometimes rape happens in a group, but do all you can to keep yourself safe so that when it happens, you won't blame yourself too much, because trust me, that blame, that self-blame is what really gets to the victim. The fact that they didn't try hard enough or they cost it.
Okay. Okay. So that's a good word. Try hard enough. Do all that you need to do so that when it happens, you don't get to blame yourself. You've also said something. So there's something, the vulnerable, the most vulnerable. Well, in advertising, you have primary target, secondary, and tertiary. So there are those that are most vulnerable. So there's something they can also do. And one thing you've said, try to work in a group. And you said also be sensitive to your environment. You've just cited one, the work you were having, and you felt somebody was, working, and then so that was being sensitive. So there's some things we can, the most vulnerable population can actually do to be out of harm's way. Do you understand? To be out of harm's way. So it is important. Yes, so that I haven't done all. You can say I did all I was supposed to do. And then, so that's important. Okay. Now, so we're still talking about the ways how the family can support. How the family can support. You've mentioned about going to the hospital. And we've mentioned, we also, it was backstage, we said, it's a difficult time both for the family members and for the victim. So can you speak a bit on that?
So I know when it happens, sometimes family members are so angry, they want to get back at the perpetrator, they want to get revenge for the seeming offense that has taken place. But that's not the best time to do that. After you've gone to the hospital, I always recommend government hospitals, because we vouch for their results. Most times the pill, it cannot be manipulated and all of that. After you've gone to the hospital, your next step should be to report to the appropriate authorities. Or we know that sometimes you don't get justice because of the way the system operates. But when you do that, thirdly, learn to win yourself of the bad energy, the anger, the shame, the ridicule, and the seeming bad name you feel the society will give you for what has happened. You also need to heal yourself of all the hurt so you can be better prepared to be a shoulder for the victim to lean on. Because if for every time you go to the victim, you're morose, you're mumbling, you're grumbling, you're wishing you could do all the, it doesn't help the victim in any way. It has happened. The victim is trying to get past it. So you need to have this faith. You need to be strong. You need to forgive the perpetrator and open yourself up to learn to heal alongside the victim. It is now a family journey where everybody is striving to heal. So you're helping the victim to heal. You are also healing. Make it a family thing, please. Don't do it in isolation. Take turns. Today could be the father, tomorrow the mother, and the siblings. Just make sure you're there and you're all healing together. You want to cry together. You want to talk together. Whatever it is, just make sure you're doing it as a unit.
Okay, that's very key. That's very key. Okay, so we don't isolate the victim as if he or she is one leprous person. It's a family, it's a healing for the family, one for all and all for one. So we're all in it together. We're all in it together. So family members listening, you said we should take our turns. So, and then when everybody, when there's a problem of not accepting oneself, because like you said earlier on, it looks like, oh, I have changed my family name, I have changed myself and all that. So we need to offer the person acceptance, and that is what the person needs, the confidence back so that he or she can be on their feet again. So receiving compassion and validation from members of the family will also go a long way. And compassion has to be genuine, something that flows truly from the heart. Like you said, if we all need to cry, we cry together. You know what it is? It's an emotional healing. It heals. That act of crying, it's a deep sense of hurt that flows out, and then even in unspoken language, it's able to touch the other person's heart. So it's a family journey. It's a journey. Okay, we're still talking about how the family members can be part of this. So we're listening.
They can also support.
Okay.
Get counselors. get other family members who are older and wiser to talk to you. If it means taking a holiday, if it means shutting down everything and just going somewhere quiet as a family, please do that. We're not very good at shutting down, We still think life goes on. And so maybe 2-3 days after, you see them rushing to go to work, to the market. No, you need to allow this healing take the process, the normal route. First, like you said, they have to accept the fact that it has happened. They need to accept the fact that it happened to them, because most times we're like, why should it be me? And sometimes I ask, who should it be? You need to accept the fact that it happened to you and it was never your fault. If you're able to do all of that, then you can seek counsel. If you go to the police and you feel you're not getting justice, get help from the appropriate quarters, psychologists, psychiatrists, your pastors, your spiritual leaders. Seek help, because if you don't get help on how to get past it, the consequences far outweigh even the events that happen. For instance, you may not be able to hold on a relationship after a while because you blame everybody for what has happened but yourself. You may not trust people easily anymore. Even if your family tries to help, you still feel like you'll never be a part of that family again because of what has happened. So there's help. You can reach out to people like Ngozi, myself. There are a whole lot there. When you have sessions and you begin to talk, see, I've met ladies, advanced ladies, who are not getting married because they were abused at one point, and they didn't have the family help them process the healing. So please seek help. There's help.
All right. We're having some comments here. I hope you're seeing them as well.
I'm in section, but you can read it out.
Okay. Barrister Ngozi Azubike, all the way from the US. She's a lawyer as well, like you. So she's saying, let us note, which we've also established, that it is not the fault of the person that was raped. Yes, we said so. When one is sexually assaulted as a child, the child is defenseless. That is true. And she says, as I speak as a victim of sexual assault as a child and a victim of attempted rape, please, it is never the fault of the person raped. Inferring that a victim didn't try hard enough is keying into the blame game. Okay, I'm not sure we did that. We're saying that you said that very clearly, that it is not the fault of the person that was raped. The rapist or the perpetrator is, and you said he took advantage. He's an opportunist. Yes, he took advantage of the opportunity and then did that harm. Thank you, Barrister Ngozi, for that comment. Then my big sis here, Faith Chejina, is saying, what happens when the perpetrator is a close family member? That is the parent. What does the victim get? How does the victim get through the emotional turmoil?
I was waiting for that question.
Okay.
The victim never gets through it except she forgives herself and her father or brother.
Okay.
See, the healing starts with you. Until you let go, you never get past it. It's very difficult. We're sitting down here and running our mouth because we have not experienced it. But I've had close relatives who have experienced it. And it is not something you want to go through. I've experienced where they even get pregnant in the process by their siblings and their fathers. And they try to hide it and all of that. What I'm trying to say is, it happens. They live amongst us. They are neighbors. They are friends. They are your siblings. And I learn to forgive for your sake, for your sanity. And then the family can come in. Now, when I say the family should come in, I expect that the necessary, I don't want to say punishment, but the necessary steps to solving the problem is, let me say it this way. Sometimes it happens and the family members don't want to say, because he's either the breadwinner of the general family, apart from his immediate family, because he has money to throw around, or he's the oldest. They try not to, is his family, we shouldn't interfere. But I remember last week I said something, that when extended family members are able to deal with problems that they feel is for the nuclear family, then everybody is helped. Sit the victim down and address the issue. No more hiding. The reason we don't get healing and we don't get past is because it is hidden. Let's not shame the name of the family. The devil made him do it. And the victim is left out of the process completely. Let the victim involved in the process. the victim forgive. If there's an adult or a family member where you can go, a family member that you can stay with for the period, I suggest you just leave the house until you can face it fully and deal with it. It's not easy. It's dependent on each family, but there is still healing. For your sake, please get that healing.
Okay, so there's still healing. There's still healing. There's still healing. So first of all, yeah, like my big sis Faith said, if it's a member of the family, if it happens within the immediate family and it's a parent in the family, you know, it's a difficult one. But you said first, the person will need, first of all, to forgive herself or forgive himself, as the case may be. Of course, I know public figures, especially in the Christian faith, who were victims of sexual assault by their fathers, and they say it openly because now they have lived past, you know, that era, and they are, you know, providing comfort for those that are being traumatized in that way. So it is possible to have a life after a rape experience. It's not what anyone prays for, but should it happen, there is place for healing. And that's why we're talking about today, the role of the family. The family will play a very amazing role. But you said something ab initio. It is not easy. We need to get it clear. It is not easy. God forbid, but imagine a husband in a home raping a daughter, and you, wife, you are in that home. You know, that, you know, first of all, we said you need to be even emotionally equipped to be able to handle the rape victim. If you're not, if the person is not, it will be a mess altogether. Everyone will be crying together, everybody will be complaining, and then there'll be no end to the problem. So first of all, the family members need to also have their own emotions sorted out, and then they'll be able to help the victim of the rape incident. Okay, Dr. Uduak said it's a very important discussion. Barrister Ngozi again said there is a shame associated with rape. That is why it is difficult for rape victims to come forward, especially when people question what the victim must have done to warrant the rape. That is true. You said so earlier on, last week and this week, that it is, I mean, when people don't come out because people are pointing, oh, because her dress was short, because she walked in a dark alley, because she was there, and so everybody keeps quiet. So we're saying it is not the rape, it is not the fault. It is not the fault of the victim. It is the perpetrator that will be blamed 100% for his or her actions. Dr. Uduak said again, stigma may be very strong reasons why people don't speak. Yes, family name, society, what will people say? Will I marry? Will my husband still come to me after hearing that I was raped? Do you understand? So that's stigma. Then, okay, Barrister Ngozi said again, one can seek help from professionals. Most pastors are not trained to handle such. It is imperative that we seek from from trained professionals. Yes, she's still speaking as a lawyer, that she is, as someone that, like she said to us, that had been a victim as a child. So that is, it's true. There are people that have been trained in counseling. It's not just a prayer. It might not just, a prayer might not just solve it all. You know, there's the talking to, there's the healing, there's the emotional healing, the psychological healing, and you've also talked about the physical healing, which I'm sure the pastor will not do. You need to go to the hospital to find out, you know, what to do and what not to do. Okay, it's still Relationship Clinic with Ngozi for those of you just joining us, and we're discussing the role of the family in recovering and support of rape victims. Okay, so we're still waiting. So what other ways? How can the family support?
For instance, I want to talk about if it's the family member that is involved in the act.
Okay.
The good doctor said something about stigma.
Yes.
Culture has a lot to do with this. There are certain places in Nigeria where culture demands that it's the father that sleeps with his daughter first. So in such a situation, the odds are already against the female child. How do you get to move away from that? I handled the matter where the girl ran away severally from home, and it was her mother who took her back. So what do you do with such? You need to let them know that those cultural practices are harmful to the well-being of the people involved. That's where the justice system comes in. Unfortunately, it's not helping. For instance, the law says that a husband cannot be accused of raping his wife. The Sharia Penal Code states that there must be 4 men to attest to the fact that rape took place. So how do you begin as a family to scale through this hurdle? It simply means the family needs to understand their dynamics and how to walk around it. Else, they will never find stability and healing. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? The family needs to know their strength and how best to harness it in spite of the environment where they find themselves. So if family members are involved in the perpetration of such acts, they should be called to order. One of the matters that came to me, it was the mother who reported the case to the police. And the whole family almost had her neck because she did that. And she felt it was repeating itself and she needed to call the man to order. So the family honestly needs to begin to go back to the values that we hold dear. It's sacrosanct that male relatives have nothing whatsoever to do with their female or male family members. And if it happens, they should be dealt with according to the dynamic. Get professional help. Get the justice system if you need to involve in it, and speak out. Things right in silence. If you keep hiding and hiding, it will go around. I don't know if you saw the news somewhere in Lagos where it was a pastor who got 2 sisters pregnant, one 13 and the other 17. And guess what? When they came to arrest him, the parents of the victims said no, that he repented. He said he will marry the bigger one and that they should abort the pregnancy for the younger one. So are we still talking about external forces? It's still from within the family. So if we don't get our values straight, they will continue to suffer. There's no way that victim now will go past that. Okay, for the younger one, if they get to abort the child, we should ever forgive her family members. We should ever forgive her older sister. So we need to know what's best for us, and it has to be within the context of the law and bearing in mind the victim. Because if the victim never gets you, then we've not done anything.
Yeah, we've not done anything.
I'm sure you've noticed and you've had reports where they say victims end up becoming perpetrators too. Sometimes it's out of anger. They want to
they want to give back. They want to pay back what has been done to them.
That's exactly what happens. I also know victims who were raped and now had HIV, and out of anger, they decided to spread it around because they felt they didn't deserve it. So because the root cause was not dealt with.
Okay. Wow, that's deep. That's deep. Okay, I got it right. I got you what you said. You said the family should understand the dynamics of their immediate family and be able to deal with it accordingly. All right. So family members that are listening at this time, we pray it doesn't happen to any of us, but should it happen to someone we know, please let it be resolved according to the peculiarity of those families. But as for handling, it should be handled because the victim needs to be helped and the perpetrator needs to be stopped. He needs to be stopped because if it doesn't, if like you said, if we cover the perpetrator this one time, he will go again and expect to be covered, and he will continue wreaking the havoc everywhere. And people will continue being, victims to his act. And he said family values are so important. Dr. Uduak spoke about that last week and talked about family values, our values as a family. So families should constantly, we're just hearing it now. Some people might just be hearing it, that even as organizations have their values, it is important that as families too, we have our core values and then we uphold them. They will also help in, resolving situations like this and then maintaining the peace and, the peace in our homes. Okay. All right. That is very key. That is very important. Let's take there's a comment here from Mrs. Chejina. She says we need a lot of sensitization in the country. It's painful that when children are abused, there isn't any safe abode for the child. The child is taken back to the very environment where the abuse has taken place.
Well,
that
is a very personal comment you've made. I see it happen over and over again. We beg, we sit down, we talk about it, they take the child back, the same thing gets to happen. It's not as if we don't have some of these centers. They are not enough. Even the centers have become an avenue
perpetrating grounds.
Perpetrated. You don't want to know what goes on in these centers. If we had good agencies, NGOs that are properly funded, we can do all of that. But the few non-governmental organizations who are doing that are overwhelmed. Our society does not even give room for other family members to adopt. So they just have to go back. That's the only home they know. That is where they can, to an extent, be themselves. For those who don't want to go back, they run away and then they become street children. They become vulnerable. And the chances that people meet them on the street. So this thing you said is very fundamental. I hope members of the public who are in government and listening in, we need to have more of this homes for vulnerable children. We need to have stringent rules. The VAMP, which is the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, make some things, but unfortunately, it can only operate in FCT. And most of the states that should domesticate the Child Rights Act have refused to do that. So you see, at the top government level, local government, everybody is complacent. Where do you expect these children to go? They will have to still do what? Go back home. So it's painful that we don't have enough of these facilities to help, because if they go there, you can be sure they'll get professional help, they'll get counsel, they may even go to school and learn to defend themselves. Well, in the absence of this, they end up with the same family with peace, or they become the perpetrators themselves. So you see, it's a vicious circle. And I just hope that there'll be more room for people to go into those areas and try to help the children out there.
Wow, that's heartbreaking already. You know, to know that it's like when you see the fire is burning, you think you've run out for safety, but no, the only place of safety you have is still that place where it is happening. Is not a good one at all. And like you rightly said, we're also appealing to those in government that have the ability, whose mandate it is to give succor to these children, to please provide it. It is happening. It is happening. I mean, if you tune into the radio, to the television, reports coming. I mean, one day on a national TV station, the only thing that they featured on for the next 1 hour was rape and rape and rape. And it was not just from the east to the west to the north to all over the nation. So it is everywhere happening. Different age groups, it is happening, old and young, perpetrating alike. So it's very important. So we're doing this today so that the family members can, one, provide a safe place. A safe place is not just a place to lie down, beautiful home, but a place where everyone is watching out for the good of the other person, you know. And then should there be a lion out there that bites, that someone comes home and finds succor there, but not that the thing should be biting from within. That is the most terrible one, like, you know, Mrs. Chejina said there. Okay, Angela said stigma is one of the strong reasons why people do not seek help. You have said it earlier on, and you know, people are saying the same thing. So I don't know how the enlightenment will go out so that people will know, the general public will know that you know, victims of stigma, of sexual abuse should not be stigmatized. They rather need help and need support so that they can be the best that they can. There's a lot of awareness. That is what Ms. Chejina said. We need a lot of sensitization in this area. Okay. All right. Okay. You still have some things to say? Yes, we're still talking about the role of the family. And earlier before now, you said each member of the family has a role to play. So we're waiting. So what do you think? What areas?
I come to realize that when it happens, most of the men take the back seat and allow the mothers to handle the situation. But because it's a family, it's a unit, both the mother and father need to be involved in the healing process. Most times the fathers are more concerned about their social standing, and that's why they try to associate themselves. Other times it's the pain. They just don't know how to manage the situation without lashing out the anger and all. But please get some help. Like I said, be educated, learn what to do. If you can't pay for professional services, you can ask questions. How do we help you? Ask the victim, how do we help you? Should I sit down quietly? Should I do this? What do you want me to do? As the victim gets talking, you can pinpoint areas of need and then begin to help. Let me quickly say something about stigmatization. It's a social issue. It's the same thing as a child coming home pregnant. And the first thing, I remember when we were growing up, that was the only thing that they kept ringing in my head. If you come back home pregnant, your education is finished, you are dead, you are this. And so the fear of getting pregnant stopped us from doing a whole lot. But in that same vein, for some of us, the fear of getting pregnant was what led them into having abortions that led to their death and not having children. If only we can water down the stigma that goes with all of these social problems. Rape is not just the penetration. Attempted rape, the assault that goes with it, all comes to play in the mental stability or otherwise of the victim. When we begin to make them feel that it's their fault, oh, they're no longer useful to the society, they are not needed, it will not help anybody. And family members have not helped. You see, extended family members who get to know what is happening are the ones who spread it.
Who will spread the news? Yeah.
They will tell you, oh, you are going to that family. You don't know that there are something, and before you know, it spreads like wildfire. So you see, even family members will not want to talk about it because they're trying in their mind now, trying to protect the victim's honor. But that's not helping the victim in any way. So as long as we keep talking and we're sensitizing and victims come out to talk, victims, if they're bold enough to speak out their experiences and how they overcame, it will help other members of family or victims who have had to go through that.
Okay, thank you very much. So what we're saying is that victims, they need to speak out. It is better they speak out. I mean, look at the traumas we said. We talked about the physical, the emotional, the psychological, and the sociological. So it is better that they speak out because that is the beginning point of healing for them. I mean, it's part of the healing process. The speaking out is part of the healing process because when they don't speak out, that is when they recede. That is when you know they become moody and they think of all kinds of things that might be injurious to their life eventually. By the way, I mean, about 1999 or 2000, right here in the FCT, there was somebody I know very well. She was a public figure. I won't call her name, but she had an attack. You remember? She had an attack. Yes. And then, you know, I heard she traveled. She was quite close to me. And then the next thing we heard was that she died. So we can't even possibly say, was that a suicide? Was that out of depression? Was that, but she woke, I mean, the day broke on a certain day and then they didn't see her alive again. So those are part of the things. The pain of it, when it is borne by one person, can be so disastrous. So parents watching, family members watching, please, let's create a safe haven. You know, I understand it's a pain to any family to think, oh, my daughter that I think that will walk into her husband's home, you know, all prim and proper, has been violated. We all will, nobody will not feel that hurt. But let's create an environment for them. It is better they open up their shame in the family than, you know, bottle it up or become stigmatized outside. Let them come home and open the shame, and we'll give them the comfort and the shoulder that they require, you know, so that they can continue with their life. By the grace of God, if the victim Of course, he or she is a survivor. If there is life, then there is still hope. There's still a future. There's still a good tomorrow to live. When it is painful, is when the victim, when we lose the person in the course of the incident. Okay, all right. Okay, so we are in a few minutes time now, we'll be winding up. So we're talking about ways of support for a rape victim. We said, don't be judgmental. Don't judge the person. Don't say, oh, it's because you did this. That is not the time at all. What we are talking about is recovery, is to bring the person back from that experience that he or she may have had. And you said we need to listen. We need to give listening ear. It's not the time, and give support. It might just even be quiet and the person knows you are there. You are there for me. I have you. I've got your back, like they say. And then, and you said as parents, and we also said as parents and relatives of abused persons, it's important to have your own sanity. Did you talk about that?
I said so.
You said so.
Yes. I said
they need to also have their own sanity before they are able to, recover the person. Also, is it when they tell you, when someone says, okay, I've been raped, I understand that's not the time to say, to say no. Sorry, you need to believe in the person. When the person tells you, don't say no, it's because you did this. That is why it happened to you. It's not a time for blaming the person.
It's not the time to blame the person. It's not the time to start running down your principles about all the things that they should have done to avoid the rape. No, that's the time to believe the person. I believe you 100%, and it has happened, but sorry about that. How do I help you get past it? The moment you make them feel that they can trust you with it, and you don't blame them, it could have happened to anybody, that is when the healing starts. That they can even believe that you did not take sides. Because honestly, most times the
I agree with you. I agree.
To the police station where the police people ran down a victim, and I was mad. And even in, the law of evidence has not also helped in this country. They will question your sexual history. Oh, okay, what if she's been doing it and all of that? How do you as a victim now openly speak? So when they finally open up to you, take it seriously and just be a shoulder for them to lean on.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Be a shoulder. Be a shoulder. So family members, we have a role to play in this. It's not a time to play the ostrich. It's a time to support. It's a time to lend our shoulder. It's a time to lend our shoulder. And I also understand that the healing process is not a hit and run thing. It's not a quick fix because it takes time. Of course, one person varying from the other, but it's something we need to invest our time. We must be committed to that recovery. Yeah. And I'm saying, is it possible to regain self-control, self-worth, and inner healing, after a rape experience? Is it possible?
It is absolutely 100% possible. Why would you want to give the perpetrator space in your head? He stays there rent-free. He's there creating havoc, making you feel worthless. It's bad enough that he took that self-worth from you. So the fastest and easiest way is to fight back. Get him off your head. Get her off your head. Begin to talk yourself back to healing, to normalcy. See, you can live a healthy life. You can have children. You can have wonderful relationships if you start with yourself. So when my cousin tried to rape me many years back, I was about 12, 13. For many years, I had that picture in my mind. I was scared and distrustful. And there were times I'd had incidents with people who almost wanted to have their way. I had to start speaking to myself. I knew the problem was not me. Like I always tell people that I say, it's not my fault that I'm fair, I'm beautiful and all of that. It's their fault. And I'm not going to make them steal whatever self-esteem, peace of mind and all of that. It wasn't easy. I had sleepless nights. I had for years. But I found myself. I found healing. And here I am today, happy. You can't get to yourself and much more. As a matter of fact, get back on your feet and begin to help other victims. That's another way of getting your healing, when you volunteer and learn to talk. As you talk every day, you get better at it. You get healing. You get strong.
Awesome. Okay, that's nice. So today we have been talking about how the family members can support a victim of rape. And you have just answered that it is possible to have your best life ever, but the healing, first of all, starts from within. You need to accept, as victims, unfortunately, you need to accept, it has happened and it has happened, but I'm forgiving myself. I'm moving on with my life. I'm not going to be tied down here. I'm not going to feel myself with the thoughts of this thing that just came to make, to destroy me. I'm going to move on and then still live out my dream. Okay, that is very key. All right, someone, there's a question here. What would be your advice to a potential perpetrator of these heinous acts?
Seek help.
Okay.
The person needs to deal with that spirit, that
inordinate urge.
Yes, he needs to think. Forcing your way does not make a man. It makes you less of a man or a woman. Speak to yourself and get help.
Okay.
When you feel that urge, walk away if you can.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Seek help. Okay. The conversation is still on. We have 4 minutes to go. Dr. Uduak says the healing in rape is lifelong, because sometimes, because we've not lost our mind, we've not lost our consciousness, you're still, you still keep, it's not like that part of you is deleted from your life. It's still part of your life. And sometimes as humans, such thoughts might come back. So we need to continuously, speak to ourselves, the ones we need to do, seek guidance and seek counseling, and then, the support from family as the need may arise. So she says it's a lifelong thing. It's a lifelong thing. So healing is lifelong. Okay, Barrister Ngozi said something here. She said, yes, it is a painful experience. We have said it is traumatic. Said, but I'm speaking out, hoping that it will help someone. The attempted rape I spoke of happened in my final year on my way back to the school. I ran, abandoning my books and everything I had on me. But the perpetrator caught up with me, grabbed to a secluded dark house. But as he was about to rape me, suddenly some power came upon me. I started speaking in tongues. The perpetrator became afraid and asked me where he should drop me off. I told him to drop me off at the police. Barrister, I'm clapping for you. Said he should drop you off at the police. That was a smart one. So, you said you teach your children self-defense.
Yes.
That is even though she hadn't been taught there, but she did something. There's always an instinct to defend oneself, except of course the person overpowers the victim. So this is what she did. She ran. She didn't say, oh, okay, welcome. So there is some resistance that goes with that, because you didn't apply for it. Nobody says, please come and rape me. It was not negotiated. And so she ran. I also like the fact that she talked about prayer here. So for those that are Christians, there's also something to learn from Barrister Ngozi. They understand. So there's something we can do.
Yeah.
There's something we can do.
As a person of faith, there's no temptation that comes to you that God has not made a way of escape for. So you need to just lean on the fact that you're protected. When it comes, see, when those flashbacks come, you just pray over them and step out in faith. You'll be fine. You will be fine.
Yeah. Wow. This has been a very robust conversation today. And I think these are women. They're so passionate. When you talk about rape, it touches us so much, because one, you're thinking of your young daughter out there. You're thinking of what if it was you? And some of us, that have spoken today, some have mentioned, you mentioned it, Barrister Ngozi too is talking about a near rape experience that she also had. So we are so passionate about this. And we are also saying to government, like Ms. Chejina said, please, so much more needs to be done so that our daughters are not minced meat for people that are running amok on the streets. You know, you have said it. You know, it was my husband that actually asked that question. What advice do we have for perpetrators? And you said they should seek help. It's a mental health issue. They should go and seek help, because ordinarily as human beings, we should have self-control, some measure of self-control. So if you're running amok, anytime you see anything in skirt, then something is wrong. It might not just be you, you know, it might not just be that that is what you want to do, but there's something in the person that pushes him to want to. And then after that, there's a regret. But the harm has already been done. There's an injury that has already been inflicted, and it's a lifelong one, except the person is able, through you know, seeking of professional help, you know, self-forgiving and all that, is able to come out of it. Okay, our dear viewers out there, we'd like to thank you so much. I'd like to thank Barrister Ngozi, like I said, all the way from the US. She's listening. By the way, she's contesting as a judge in one of the states. I don't know, maybe I might post it under this link after now, so that those of us who can join in and support her, not probably support her, because as a near victim of rape, she'll be able to make sure that wherever she is, that, you know, the proper thing is being done for rape victims, you know. Thank you, my big sis, Faith Jejina, for all your contributions and your concern for a safe community, especially for victims of rape. Thank you, Dr. Uduak. You know, you were supposed to be on this session, but she was busy, so she's going to come on next time. Thank you, Angela. Yeah, yes, Mrs. Angela, she runs a school. Thank you, my husband. Thank you. Oh, my big sis again, Grace Bosse Ojubo. Thank you for joining in. Thank you. And finally, Ngozi said, Barrister Ngozi Akubike said we should pray over our children as people of faith, like you would say. I'm sure whatever faith you belong to, pray over your children. It's our responsibility to do that. There's so much, even if we give them a safe haven in the home, when they step out of our doors, we are not there with them. So we can also engage the supernatural to be a covering to them. Ladies watching at this time and my guest on the show, you're so amazing. I like your wealth of knowledge, your wealth of experience. By the way, Rose is a barrister at law. She is a teen coach and focuses more on young boys. And then she's an education consultant and all in one. Very soon we shall be doing a book review with her, and I'm sure you will enjoy the best of it. Thank you everyone that joined in. God will keep our children, keep our female children, keep our male children, so that they can be together. They're not running amok. God bless you all, and see you again next week with another fantastic episode of Relationship Clinic with Ngozi. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you. God bless you all.